In this video, we will dive into the movie I Joe Retaliation. We will discuss the movie story, summarize the plot, and explore the cast and characters. Additionally, we will cover the movie's production details and box office performance. Finally, we will share some reactions. So let's begin with the movie story. The movie I Joe Retaliation is the second part of the I Joe franchise. Seeing as how I Joe Retaliation is a live-action cartoon, I wish we could have seen throw balloons above the heads of Channing Tatum, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and Bruce Willis, among others, as they filmed their ridiculous and overblown debacles. Not their chance, mind you. I wanted to see thought balloons indicating what was going through the minds of the actors as they went through their paces. Willis, let's see, this paycheck will cover the vacations house of what? Another 2 years, plus I can get a gold harmonica. Hey, I wonder if any of these punks are the original Die Hard. Wait, they want me to say, what about Patton's gun? Jason, I know they are going to turn this scene into a slow motion group walk in the editing. How many times I going to have to walk in slow motion with flames bursting all around me? Am I going to doing this when I am 70? Tatum, I've got to talk to my agent about these must appear in the sequel contracts. Adrian Blakey, hey everybody, remember me? I was on Friday night that how had actually writing. So the I Joe Retaliation. I think I made my thought on turn of my brain's movies clear when I reviewed Battleship last year. For me, if a film has a budget near or exceeding 100 million US dollars, it doesn't get a pass when it comes to bad plot or acting. That being said, it is possible not to understand the appeal of these movies. I think there are two key barometers for me anyway that I comes to giving an overall rating for me movie, which are, was I entertained or was I engaged? Battleship fell spectacularly at both hurdles, but I Joe Retaliation actually passed one of them. That being, Battleship was legendarily poor, but I Joe gets just a bit more praise for me for a number of reasons than I go into. That's not to say it's a good movie, of course. I Joe Retaliation is the short of sequel to I Joe The Rise of Cobra, which sees the titular Special Forces unit. I think that's what they are anyway. Take on the might of evil terrorist organization Cobra. When Cobra managed to get a duplicate president in place, Jonathan Brady, they are able to pretty much wipe the jaws out, except for a few survivors led by Redlock, Damon, The Rock, or Johnson. The remaining jaws, Lady J, Flint, Snake Eyes, and General Colton, must find a way to stop the maniacal world domination scheme of Cobra Commander, Firefly, Storm Shadow, and Zertan. Right, so it's entertaining, it's over the top, silly action packed, but it is entertaining. It's fun and expectable thrill ride. The plot is actually a bit of a step up for the Rise of Cobra insofar as it maintains a coherence and manageability that its precedents lack. No underwater ice fortress in the one, no Eiffel Tower eating 90s, the actual deadly McFin 10 controls used as space-based weapons is based on real science and theoretical applications. Aside from one big CGI heavy moment late on, Retaliation never actually gets too bad on that score. It's well placed. I think the production team know the dialogue was not their focus on strong point, so exposition and character development is kept contained enough to still be somewhat relevant, but is broken some by numerous entertainment action sequences. That being said, the pacing does take a bit of a hit at times. The opening sequence of defective extraction in North Korea was bizarrely low-key and slow as an introduction to a movie of this type. The action flips awkwardly between plot, especially between the roadblock parts and the snake eyes part in the first half of the movie. Just seems odd to jump back and forth between the two with limited time given to each in each segment. There was also a few sequences that went on away too long, like the prison escape in East Germany, which could have been handled in a much simpler fashion. Without the complex setup for the situation, for much the same payoff, then there is a laughable stuff like Roadblock meeting up with these ghetto buddies in America. It all smooth out in the latter half of the movie though. I mean, more than the first one, Retaliation gets the basic in and does them competently. Even if there are tears at the seams, Storm Shadows have a little redemption, revenge arc on Zerton, that's all good. Roadblock had some of his own vengeance to get, and they set up the toll between him and Fairfully very nicely. So it's actually had some remnants in the final encounter. It fails to land in other places like with Lady J and this very rushed father figure thing that she has with Colton. This is all basic storytelling, and Retaliation can at least say that it gets it right some of the time. As you might expect, there is bad logic and gaping plot holes all over the place which distract from the overall experience. They are scratched about the running time but really start to peel up during the last half hour, which can be viewed as a bit of an immersion deal breaker. Retaliation depicts a world where every nuclear power on Earth can have all of these nuclear missiles in the air in seconds thanks to the orders of a single man, and that this same person can self-destruct them all in mid-air, which doesn't create any fallout problem. No sir. The race against time in final is to stop the tungsten roads for being released over major capitals, but this takes the form of detonating the satellites holding them, which should send the tungsten roads into free fall, right? Cobra are a terrorist organization that have been involved in numerous large-scale atrocities, but no one bats an eyelid with the president makes them his new special forces team. The United States somehow operates a prison in East Germany so far underground that it goes beyond national sovereignty. What? And is more than happy to keep Cobra Commander and Datro in barbaric condition for some reason. London gets wiped out, but after the neat visual effect, it actually doesn't get a single reference. Not even a reaction shot from the British Prime Minister. Someone says they will cyberblast an encrypted message at one point, and right at the end, for some reason, Roadblock lets off a pistol at a military ceremony. I went into the movie knowing that I would encounter such problems. They seem to be an inherent part of the modern action movie. The key is whether they pass the inception test of being president in an otherwise ripe production. G.I. Joe gets middling marks on the score, especially in the final 30 minutes. The whole situation with the nukes especially is totally the fable. The acting talent on display is a very mixed variety. There are only 3 real standouts of a very large cast. Dwayne Johnson is actually a better actor than people give him credit for, I think anyway. Even if he has been largely relegated to action roles, he gets to have some good moments with Tatum here, and displays an intensity drive of retribution, part of the plot forward well enough in the latter half of proceedings. He is not spectacular by any means and does get a little Clyde written, but as the main star of an action movie, he does his job. Jonathan Pryce as both the real and the fake president gets the best of both worlds. He hamps it up as the bad guy in a delightfully scenery-changing sort of way, and I think he is a compelling and interesting villain. A charming, devil-may-care attitude storing everything that he does. Lee is probably the best bad guy through. Storm Shadow has the only thing resembling an effect backstory and probably has the most emotional range to show off. From breaking Cobra Commander out of the prison to getting captured to going after Zertan at the conclusion, it mostly stoic of course, but like with the Rise of Cobra, the producer knew that Storm Shadows has someone to focus on, not just for this rivalry with Snake Eyes, but because they could get some half-decent plot out of him. Lee provides that. Unfortunately, just because everyone else is some kind of awful, Ray Park is both mute and completely covered with snake eyes, so despite this substantial chunk of his running time, I cannot really rate him. Elodie Chung as Joe Member Jinx, I am not sure she got more than 2 lines, she was just short of there. Ray Stevenson is an actor I really like, but man was the Phoenix as in the bad time here. He was evil tough guy, only with a slight accent. His fight scene with Johnson are good, but he was thoroughly unmemorable in terms of actual acting ability. DJ Controna as Flint appears at first to be an important part of the cast, but upon reflecting, I cannot remember a single thing of any impact that he did or any effect that he had on the plot in general. He was just there in a lot of scene and with lines of dialogue, but not actually contributing anything worthwhile. Bizarre, Bleaky seems to just be the obligatory female character, and she is not a great actress. I would buy her as a soldier in the first half of the movie, but then suddenly it was all so much eye-rolling body image exploiting stuff. The father figure angle with Willis flats because she didn't get time to do anything with it, not that I have much faith and she could have. Channing Tatum returns briefly as Duke, I think one of only 3 holes over from the last movie. He does fine, especially in the scenes with Jason, but he exists in this movie to be just a motivator in death. Barrisri Beaker is pretty sinister as the Cobra commander, but he is such an OTT villain character that it's hard to really evaluate this acting chops. He certainly comes off as villain anyway, so I suppose it was a success. Welton Goggins last seen a pretty comedic role in Lincoln in the prison warden here, a really strange role where he is portrayed as his gleefully sadistic type, but still short of a hero. Such a bizarre way to play such a character, and it was one of the big problems with the whole convoluted sequence. Erland Vosto is apparently in the movie, but I suspect he was never actually on set since he has no lines and might just have been CGI'd in. Joseph Mizzulo, whom I last saw staring around him a lot in the Pacific in the stereotypical FNG here, who sets just enough time to be youthful before he is killed off. Arcette is the blind master, heavily made up, is a really strange part that seems built for a celebrity cameo, kind of like how Brendan Fraser turned up in the first one of some reason. He is pretty blind. And lastly, there is a Bruce Willis who does an awful job. He really doesn't care about this movie with stunts dialogue and a total lack of believable interaction. He appears to be in this movie because he was available, and it's always nice to have a big name to supplement in the cast. Just awful from the way he kept calling Jay, Brenda, seriously, what was that? To his casual revealing of the mountain of guns in the house, to his limited role in the final. What was he doing in this movie? A performance to match Liam Neeson in Battleships, that for damn sure. It's okay, script work. For the most part, a little unnatural at times, especially when it comes to any of the plot hole moments I have mentioned above. There is a lot of stuff thrown in that seems to be beginning of something meaningful only to get cast to the wayside. There are references to some period handled pistols are important, but we never really see why. A throwaway line tells us that Jinx is Storm Shadow's sister, but this apparently important bit of information doesn't really seem to matter for the rest of the movie. Just a lot of stuff like that. Obviously, wordplay is not going to be the key strength in an action movie, but Retaliation is trying to at the every least, so I have to give it some credit. I like the camaraderie between Duke and Roadblock in the early part of the movie, which was funny and indicative of a close relationship, which helped to set up the revenge quest later on. I like the bad cast dialogue, if only because I am a sucker of anything megalomaniacal and over the top of the get-go. And there's the smaller things, when the warden mentioned the cooling agents they use to keep the prison from roasting, and these flammable agents are used as a weapon later. That's a good foreshadowing. When Roadblock talks about his past life, it's glitchy as hell, but fits the character nicely. Just little things like they are able to elevate Retaliation above the more easily dismissable garbage you see from the gender. The characterization element is subsequently amplified and effective. how Lady J wakes about how hard it is to be a woman in the military while she undresses to reveal a sexy tone thumbs to come. But at least it is there to a greater extent than it was in the first movie. This Walnut bring it all down, of course, along with the mediocre acting performances. Visually, I think it does a good job. The scale of CGI use is the way down from the last one, with Retaliation opting for more up-close action stuff and limited set piece. The big expectation is the destruction of London, which is depicted rather than, but it's nothing that we have not seen before from any number of disaster movie. Everything else is much smaller in scale and used as a addendum to other stuff like Beverly Rocket's bike or the escape from the mountaintop Montessori. There's a decent camera work, lots of colors. There's a pretty seamless blend of really nice looking locals from desert to mountains to the odd but somewhat endearing choice of Fort Summer as the final spot. The action scenes are quite good. The assault in Pakistan is breakneck. The helicopter attack is a good combination of bright flashes against black sky. The fight scenes between Roadblock and Fertley are slower knockers, and the final in general is a good way to close it all off with minor duels and larger explosions. The best of the lot is the ninja combat in the mountains, which included a neat back and forth as the two opposing groups swat on climbing ropes while swimming forwards. Retaliation is the kind of the movie that sets out to entertain with good reaction, and I think that is succeed in doing that. Musically, it's a symphonic assault on Dunkirk with the unexpected mix of techno rap music you see is anything even regularly devoted to the United States military. Nothing too memorable here, but it does the right job is getting the tension up and pulse pounding. Don't remember a note of it how tough. So theme, obviously this is a shallow enough production relatively speaking, so there really are not a whole lot of theme to be discussing. With that being said, I will give it a shot with the one theme you can really see, which is the very little. It's nothing but retribution and revenge here. The overall plot of Cobra seeking revenge of their failure to take over the world in the first film. Storm Shadow seeks revenge on Zertan for killing his master, just as Snake Eye seeks revenge for the same crime. Roadblock wants to avenge Duke Death, Lady J wants to stick it to her father, and around we go. It's basic stuffs, and not all of it lands very well, but it is present, adding just a little depth to the production. The Storm Shadow Zertan one probably has the best potential to be something better. How often do you see a story about a bad guy justifiably seeking revenge, but only gets introduced past the halfway point and seems to have re-content significant part of the first movie? The Lady J stuff is very definition of rushed, so that's no good. The Roadblock one is pretty light on substance in many respects, but improve the fight scenes between him and Fairfleet. Why not have Fairfleet at the Miscare where Duke dies to a degree? Overall, I cannot say that G.I. Joe Retaliation is a good movie. Of course, all the film I have seen this year I ranks quite low. But it is not the bad, not really. It has good action, nice use of CGI, a coherent plot, and some half decent performances from the better actors. But it also had a legacy script, a whole lead of mediocre cast members, plenty of plot holes, and lots of random, unappealing elements. Retaliation is never going to be viewed as a classic anything, but I would still recommend it for the reason that I left the cinema entertained. I didn't turn off my brain, and I recognize the flaws, but it's a fun movie that should make you laugh on occasions and enjoy some really good action on others. Walking into G.I. Joe Retaliation and expected a serious and deep plot is like walking into Burger King expecting a gourmet meal. While the target audience of Retaliation is 13 years old boys, it suits them perfectly. Fans of Tatum will be disappointed in the sequel to 2009 Rise of Cobra. Tatum's character is killed off in the first 20 minutes to set up the plot Retaliation focuses on a huge nuclear disarmament summit set up by the US president, who is actually a Cobra operative. The Joes are framed for the assassination of the fictional Pakistani president and are attacked by the Cobra forces inside the military. During the attack, Duke sacrifices himself to save the few remaining Jaws, Roadblocks, who is the remaining captain of the Jaws, Lady J, and Flint. Not in the attack with Snake's Eyes and newly recruited Jinx, the fugitive Jaws seek help from founding members Joe Colton. Retaliation truly lives up to the franchise history. It's action-packed, fast-packed with has ninjas, the film's main draw point in its spectacular use of CGI. The high-intensity action scenes are masterfully created and rendered by the computer wizards at Industrial Light and Magic. We were responsible for such hits as The Pirates of the Caribbean and Star Trek. One scene that showcases this is an ominous cliffside fight between Snake's Eyes and Jinx as they fight a clan of mountain-dwelling ninjas, all while rappelling from slopes of the Himalayas. Snake's Eyes run along the side of the sheeted cliff, slicing the ropes of the cinema, and you can hardly tell that it is a computerized at all. The use of live actors blind perfectly with the animated giving a sense that the action is real. One thing that really distracts from Retaliation's performance is the seeming endless plot holes and a forced revenge subplot between rival Snake Eyes and Storm Shadows. For example, it is a huge secret that the president is not actually the president, but when the Joe survives the attack in the beginning, they come to the sudden realization that they were betrayed by a fake president. The Ninja Revenge storyline also feels like it was thrown in the last minute just to fill space. At the end of the day, the best advice I have for seeing I Joe Retaliation is check your brain at the door and enjoy yourself. The film knows it's not a serious, therapeutic, cinematic experience, and that's why it works so well. Now let's talk about the main cast biography shortly. Dwayne Johnson. Dwayne Johnson, born by 1972, Harvard, California, US, is an American professional wrestler and actor whose charisma and athleticism made him a success in his both fields. Jason was born into a wrestling family. His maternal grandfather, High Chief Peter Mafia, emerged on the professional scene in the 1960s and 70s. Jason's father, Soulman Rocky Johnson, worked the American regional wrestling circuit and boxed. In 1974, he was sparring partner of God Foreman, then preparing for the Rumble in the Jungle with Muhammad Ali. However, the younger Jason initially preferred the gridiron to the mat. He was a standout high school athlete and played on the 1991 NCAA championship football team at the University of Miami, Bachelor of General Studies, 1995. After injuries cut short his career in the Canadian Football League, he turned to wrestling. Gifted with a remarkable combination of size, speed, and agility, as well as impeccable microphone skills, Jason made his World Wrestling Federation (WWF) debut in 1996 as Rocky Maivia, a name that paid tribute to both his father and his grandfather. He was heavily promoted as a face, and after just a few months of exposure, Jason captured the WWF International title. The aggressive push triggered a backlash from fans, however, and subsequent storylines saw the Rocky Maivia persona sidelined in favor of The Rock, an unapologetic heel. The turn led to the increased popularity. The Rock engaged in a series of high-profile feuds with the biggest stars in the WWF and captured the first of several World Championship titles in 1998. The brave charm that Jason exhibited in his in-ring monologues translated smoothly to the silver screen, and his appearances in The Mummy Returns signaled a new stage in his career. Although Jason was neither the first nor the last professional wrestler to be courted by Hollywood, he was easily the most successful. He followed The Mummy Returns with The Scorpion King and The Rundown 2003. In 2004, he left the ring to turn his attention to acting full-time. Johnson's Later films include testosterone-fueled action fairs such as G.I. Joe, Retaliation, Pain and Gain, and fourth installments of the Fast and Furious series, Fast 5, 2011, Fast and Furious 6, Furious 7, and The Fate of the Furious. He also appeared in the family entertainment The Game Plan 2007, Tooth Fairy 2010, and Journey to the Mysterious Island 2021. Jason then was cast in the ritual Greek mythology figures in Hercules. He played a firefighter dealing with a catastrophic earthquake in the action film San Andreas 2015, and in 2016 he started opposite comedian Kevin Hart in the buddy comedy Central Intelligence. Jason later provided the voice of a demigod in Moana 2016, an animated film by Disney. In 2017, he started in Baywatch, a comedy based on the TV series about lifeguard, and Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle, which was adapted from a children's book by Chris Van Allsburg. The next year, Jason portrayed a father who goes to a great height to save his family from a burning building in the action movie Skyscraper. He then co-starred with Jason Statham in Fast and Furious Present Hobbs and Shaw, a spin-off from the long-running franchise, and took the lead role in Jumanji: The Next Level, both 2010, a sequel to the 2017 film. In 2021, he started with Emily Blunt in Jungle Cruise, an action comedy based on a theme park side. That year, Jason also appeared as a FBI profiler chasing art thieves in Red Notice. He credited from 2022 included Black Adam, a DC Comics superhero movie. Jason appeared in the various television projects. In 2013, he hosted the reality television series The Hero and later starred in Ballard's 2015 to 19, an HBO comedy series about the former football player who becomes a financial advisor to other sports stars. Jason then created and hosted the reality TV series The Titan Games, which featured a variety of athlete competition. He later appeared in Young Rock, a comedy series about his life. The next main character is Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis, born 1955, West Germany, is an American actor best known for his performances in blockbuster action films, particularly the Die Hard series. Willis was born in West Germany, where his father was stationed at an American military base, and the family moved to New Jersey in 1957. After high school graduation, he took a series of odd jobs before studying theater at Montclair State College, later Montclair State University. He dropped out of college and moved to New York City, where he began his acting career with both Broadway roles and appearances in television commercials. Willis had a number of small films roles in the early 1980s before he was hired as a wisecracking detective opposite Sybil Stepherd in the television sitcom Moonlighting, 1985 to 1890. The show made Willis a household name and helped to launch his film career. In the action thriller Die Hard 1988, Willis portrayed the cynical but good matured New York City police detective John McClane, who finds himself embroiled in a terrorist attack on a Los Angeles office building. The film was a major box office success and helped establish Willis as a leading action hero. It also spanned the sequel Die Hard 2 1990, Die Hard with a Vengeance 1995, Life Free or Die Hard 2007, and A Good Day to Die Hard 2013. Willis took roles in a number of violent and darkly comedic films, including Pulp Fiction 1994, in which he played a professional boxer who doubly crosses a mobster after agreeing to throw a fight. 12 Monkeys 1995, about a convict sent back in time to investigate a virus that devastated humankind, and The Fifth Element 1997, a visually impressive science action film. Will he continued to act in large budget action films including Armageddon and Tears of the Sun. Willis also appears in comedic including The Whole Nine Yards. In 1999, he started in The Sixth Sense as a psychologist who consoles a child who claims to see dead people. The drama, which was written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan, was a critical and commercial success. Willis re-teamed with Shyamalan on the supernatural thriller Unbreakable 2000. Willis' subsequent films include the stylizer Sin City, which was adapted from Frank Miller's graphic novel series, the thriller 16 Blocks, and the buddy comedy Cop Out 2010. He also appeared in the action franchise Red 2010-13 as a retired CIA agent and in the Expendable 2010-12 as an action one. The latter series brought together several agent gangs of the genre. Among Willis' other roles in 2012 was a lonely cop in the whimsical Moonrise Kingdom, a time-traveling hitman in the sci-fi thriller Looper, and a professional gambler in the comedy drama Lay the Favorite. I Joe Retaliation, released the following year, provided another ranked action role for the Polyphar actor. In 2014, Willis reprised the Sin City role in the sequel Sin City: A Dame to Kill For. He played a mercenary in Beverly Linkson comedy Rock the Casbah 2015 and a kidnapped farm spy in the action flick Extraction 2015. Willis later starred in the 2018 remake of Deathwish, a 1974 action film about a father who becomes a vigilante after his family is attacked. In Glass 2019, he reprised his role as a security guard superhero from Unbreakable. His other films from 2019 included the comedy Between Two Friends and Motherless Brooklyn, a crime drama set in the 1950s. Over the next several years, he starred in a string of action movies that include Breach 2020, Out of Death 2021, and A Day to Die 2022. Willis made his Broadway debut in 2015, appearing as an adaptation of Stephen King's novel Mystery. He portrayed a writer held captive by an obsessed fan. In 2022, it was announced that Willis is stepping away from his career after he was diagnosed with aphasia, a disorder that impairs the expression and comprehension of language. The following year, his family announced that the actor's condition has progressed and that he was suffering from frontotemporal dementia. The next main character is Channing Tatum. Channing Tatum, born April 26, 1980, Cullman, Alabama, US, is an American actor and dancer who is best known for his portrayal of Magic Mike Lane, a young man navigating the world of exotic dancing in three films: Magic Mike, XXL, and Magic Mike Last Dance. Noted for his versatility, Tatum also had success with a number of other movies, including the comedies 21 Jump Street and its sequel 22 Jump Street, and such action thrillers as I Joe, The Rise of Cobra 2009. Early life. Tatum, the son of Glenn Tatum and Kay Tatum, was raised in the working class family. They lived in the South, moving from Alabama to Mississippi, and then when he was a teenager to Florida. An athletic child, he tries his hand at several sports including Gator football, and eventually was awarded a scholarship to Gilville State College in West Virginia. He dropped out before graduating, however, and took a series of jobs in fields including constructions and sale. At age 19, Tatum began working as a stripper, and he later embarked on a modeling career representing such companies as Abercrombie and Fitch and Cole and Gabbana. This led in short order to appearances in commercials, including sports for Mountain Dew and Pepsi. He was also hired for music videos, making his debut in Ricky Martin's She Bangs in 2000. These early efforts helped Tatum develop professional level dancing skill despite having never received formal training. In 2004, Tatum made his first appearances in a TV series, playing an aspiring rapper in an episode of CSI Miami. His big screen debut occurs the next year when he portrayed basketball player Jason Stiles as the Samuel L. Jackson vehicle coach started a well-received sports drama. Rules is a guide to recognizing your saints, and She Is the Man followed in 2006, as did its star turn as Taylor Cake in the box office hit Step Up. In the latter, a dance drama, Tatum played a young man who repeatedly got in trouble before meeting and falling in love with Nora Clark a ballet student played by Gina Dawn. Life mimic art as Damon and Tatum begin dating, eventually marrying in 2009. Tatum returned for a cameo in 2008 sequel Step Up to the Streets. A starring of subsequent films, Momentum, Tatum's place in Hollywood, he showcases his dramatic skills in the war drama Stop Loss 2008 and Machelman's Public Enemies 2009, a biopic about ganger John Dillington starring Johnny Depp and Christian Bale. In the sci-fi thriller G.I. Joe The Rise of Cobra, Tatum played Duke, a special operative. He reprised the role in the 2013 sequel G.I. Joe Retaliation. In 2010, he branches out into rom-com starring with Amanda Seyfried in Dear John, an adaptation of a Nicholas Sparks novel. Now let's talk about the box office performance of the movie G.I. Joe Retaliation. The knives were out in Hollywood for G.I. Joe Retaliation back in 2012 when Paramount surprised everyone, including Dr. Jon M, by announcing it was putting back the release by 9th month from 19 June 2012 to the end of March 2013. At the time, there was the usual Hollywood smokescreen to placate the misses. The official line was the studio needed more time on the 3D conversion. Versus, in fact, executives were scrambling to reshoot and expand Channing Tatum's role. Tatum's chemistry with Dwayne Johnson is one of the best things about his actual quite decent sequel to the Hideout Procedures 2009's G.I. Joe The Rise of Cobra, and test audience last year was obsessed then Russo's character died in the opening minutes. That's understandable. Tatum is a charmer and audience love him, so do calibrators, as anyone who saw the late February Love in the White House Dawn co-star Jamie Foxx on Jimmy Kimmel's Last Night talk show will attest. He just loves score successive hits with the Who and 21 Jump Streets and You Don't Kill Off a Star in the first act. So Tatum has a bigger role now, and the $41.2 million result over the weekend was the second biggest ever 3-day Easter weekend launch at the North America box office. Following Clash of the Titans in 2010 with $61.2 million factoring in Retaliation's 4-day launch that week of last Thursday, the film stands at $51.7 million and $130 million worldwide. The official line is the movie cost $130 million to produce, so let's make it real and boost the figure to $160 million and throw it a minimum $80 million for marketing, and that's take us to $240 million. Even at the threshold, the movie is looking good. The same cannot be said for The Host, a new Stephenie Meyer adaptation starring Snorri Ronan and distributed by Open Road. It arrives in 6th place on $11 million in a disappointing start. Taylor Petty, on the other hand, remains gold dust, and his partner at Lionsgate are laughing all the way to the bank. His Temptation, Confession of a Marriage Counselor, open in 3rd place on a rock-solid $22.3 million, with a very promising acting career to come, judging by Polytrock record on TV and DVD. Meanwhile, Harmony Noise deliciously wrinkly, surprising Baker has crossed $10 million through Arthur's distributor A24. What a way to start from a new contributor. That can only be good news for the speltry market, as hundreds of movies just for intention is the notoriously treacherous North America market each month. North American Top 10 29-31 March 2013 movies. G.I. Joe Retaliation $41.2 million, total $51 million. The Croods $26.5 million, total $80 million. G.I. Joe captures $10.5 million Thursday. G.I. Joe Retaliation was again the top gun at the domestic box office Thursday, grossing an estimated $10.5 million from 3,719 locations. Paramount's sequel to the 2019 actioner starring Channing Tatum, Dwayne Johnson, and Bruce Willis is on track for a 4 days haul of $50 million stated after earning and an cinema score with odds. The first installment's cinema scores was B+. Budgets as $130 million, G.I. Joe expand to 53 date and day markets Friday, wrapping 65% of the international arena and should cross the $100 million worldwide by the end of the weekend. 3D Pick, co-producer by BGM and Skydance, is also playing at 302 IMAX locations domestically. Other new releases Friday include Open Roads the Host and the Taylor Perry Pick Temptation from Lionsgate. Fox DreamWorks Animation's Recruits should continue to flick with families just Easter weekend for a projected high $20 million starter sophomore frame. The 3D tones, which debuted to 43 domestically, proved equally appealing overseas with a current worldwide total of $133 million. In limited release focus feature drama, The Place Beyond on the Pines open in the New York and LA Friday, while IFS Rome 2037 The Dock on Stanley Kubrick The Shining bows in Gotham. After a 9 months delay, G.I. Joe Retaliation developed to the top spot at the box office. The action film starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Bruce Willis and Tatum as the gun-toting military toys brought to life much into the number 1 position at the weekend box office, earning $41.2 million according to studio estimated Sunday. Retaliation opened Wednesday at midnight, which helped bring its domestic total to $51.7 million. According to the Hollywood Reporter, the film opened with $132 million at the worldwide box office, one of the highest figures ever of the Easter holiday. Paramount postponed the sequel to 2019 G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra last May from its original June opening date to convert the film to 3D. The last minute change comes just weeks after Battleship, another movie based on a Hasbro toy, sank at the box office. At the time, Paramount had already begun its advertising campaign for Retaliation. "It's certainly vindicating the decision," said Don Harris, the studio's head of distribution. "Anytime you make those sort of moves, people always assume the worst. The truth is, I'd seen this movie is a long time ago in 2D, and the movie workout is 2D. It's trying to be scandalous. The movie is intended to be enjoyed as a big action spectacle." After debating in the top spot last weekend, the 3D animated prehistoric comedy The Croods from DreamWorks Animation and 20th Century Fox slips to the number 2 spot with $26.5 million in its second weekend. The film features the voices of Nicolas Cage, Emma Stone and Catherine Keener as a cave family on the hunt for a new home. Among the other new films this weekend, Taylor Perry's Temptation starring Journey Smoothbell and Lance Cross opened above expectations at number 3 with $22.3 million, while the science fiction adaptation The Host featuring Saoirse Ronan, Max Aarons and Jay Cabell as character from the Stephenie Meyer novel landed at number 6 in its debut weekend with a modest $11 million. Overall, the weekend box office was on par with last year when The Hunger Games continued to dominate in its second weekend of release with $58.5 million. After a slow start, Hollywood's year-to-date revenue are still 12% behind last year. Heading into next month, with the summer movie season unofficially kicks off with Iron Man 3 on May 3. It's getting on back on track after many weekends of downtreading box office, said Paul Dargibedian, box office analytics for Hollywood.com. Last weekend was a turning point with the strength of the Croods and Olympic was fallen, doing better than expected. We are heading toward the summer movie season on solid footing. It's been a tough year so far. G.I. Joe Retaliation. Paramount now says that G.I. Joe that opened with a global gross of $132 million, including previews, which is plus 35% ahead of the worldwide opening for the first installment. The studio revised its international estimate to $80.3 $3 million based upon Saturday excellent play for what is the best international opening for 2013. It surpasses Oz at the Great and Powerful by 15% despite only opening in 75% of the world. Defined domestic figures are up slightly, 41.2 million for the 3-day Easter weekend because Saturday came in stronger than expected. With a 4-1 better 2 day comes off $51.7 million. Exit polling of audience showed that 68% was male and 59% over age 25. Until now, no title had even cracked the $70 million walked overseas this year. The sequel's international opening was almost double the disappointing first installment G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra for the same territories. This weekend release represented about 75% of the world, with major territories like China and Japan yet to open. G.I. Joe Retaliation was number 1 in the overwhelming majority of release territories, including Russia, Korea, Mexico, Germany, Australia, and France. Key international results include Russia 11 million, Korea and Mexico 6 million, Germany and UK 4.5 million each. For IMAX, domestic grossed 4.8 million on 303 screens for this digital-only run, while international hit 2.35 million on 78 screens for 30K screen. All in all, a good foreign result for co-financier MGM and David Ellison's Skydance production. Also for director Jon M, who made the leap from dance and music enter project like the Step Up franchise and the Justin Bieber Never Say Never concerned documentary to this auctioneer. G.I. Joe Retaliation box office performance by which we are talking. Dominates weekend box office, sequel on the way. Paramount Pictures are moving ahead with the plan for a third G.I. Joe after the series' second installment G.I. Joe Retaliation made more than $40 million domestically this weekend and earned the top international single weekend box office gross of 2013. Jojo, after a $132 million opening for G.I. Joe Retaliation, Paramount said it will move forward with a third GOG, tweeted Friday's Andrew Stewart earlier this year. That came on the heels of a $41.2 million weekend in the US and $132 million worldwide, second only to Oz at the Great and Powerful's $148 million worldwide gross. But much more of Oz money came from the US, so Paramount is still sticking to a record second 2013 weekend as G.I. Joe. Joe also had the second best Easter weekend opening ever behind 2010 Wrath of the Titans. Last week movie The Croods took in $26.6 million this weekend for the 2 spot, giving the movie a strong first 2 weeks. The studio have been hoping for that. Since tracking on the movie had been uneven going into last week's release, Taylor Payne's Temptation came in at, followed by Olympus Has Fallen and Oz the Great and Powerful. The last notable film of the week was The Host, the new sci-fi adaptation of the book by Stephanie Meyer, the author of Twilight. The movie flagged, bringing in only $11 million and taking the spot. That's Car to Heart stars Saoirse Ronan, whose Order of the Seven was recently accessed by Disney because it's cost too much money. Maybe we can get a role opposite Taylor Swift, whose John Carter and Battleship are back up to back money losers last weekend. G.I. Joe Retaliation is the movie like any holiday that sees families congregate together and desperately seeking activities when they don't have to talk to each other for 2 hours. Then Easter weekend had a strong pump at the box office. G.I. Joe Retaliation this weekend $41 million. With G.I. Joe The Rise of Cobra making some money, but clearly not inspiring much enthusiasm. Paramount has gone for a pretty notable overhaul for the series with G.I. Joe Retaliation, an unusual mixture of sequel and reboot. The new film does continued storyline and a few characters from the first movie, but also has some huge difference both in terms of cast and crew and in the overall approach. The early scene established a close bond between Duke and Red Block, two members of the Joy team who head up a squad whose members including Snake Eyes, Flint and J. But when the Joes are framed and ambushed, only Roadblock had a few others are left to try to find those behind it and clear their name. The biggest thing G.I. Joe Retaliation has going for it that unlike G.I. Joe The Rise of Cobra, this film feels like a true G.I. Joe story, one that more firmly embraces its roots. Gone are the power suits that Joyce more last time around that felt completely out of place. There is some cool futuristic touch used here, but the characters themselves are not bouncing around through the streets in the midst of battles. Oh, and there are more plotline introduced that involves Duke or any other Joy being best friends with Cobra Commander and Brownies being Cobra Commander's sister and Duke's former fiancée. Cobra especially is well. Cobra, as a long-time G.I. Joe fans, it's hard not to smile seeing Cobra Commander complete with silver mask walk along flanked by Storm Shadow and Fairly followed by a group of Cobra soldiers and Red Ninjas. The movie is unapologetic about the use of code names and G.I. Joe and Cobra terminology and is basically saying, we know what you came for, here it is. It is also a bit goofy of course, which is part of the charm. As much as we love G.I. Joe growing up and have to expect that translating it into live action means finding out some of the laudicornus of it all. That being the case, I cannot help but wish they had gone even further and also let the Joys like Cobra wear uniforms more like their comic books counterparts. Nope, Lady Joy doesn't have a green outfit and baseball hat, and the only time Flint wears a beret, it's a Carmine. Here everyone is wearing one, but we are so close to that, so maybe part 3. The characters are not exactly announced and we get just enough backstory and motivation to eke by in most cases. Though a couple of characters feel particularly underserved even on the score, including Flint and Jinx, the latter of whom gets a line or two mentioning who she is and then basically serve as Snake's Eyes sidekick for the rest of the film. She speaks only a little more than her mute mentor. But to see them in action is a thing of beauty. Overall, the action scenes in G.I. Joe Retaliation are fun and exciting. Director Jon M brings his own I Joe freedom to the film, along with his background directing dance-oriented movies, including 2 Steps-Up installments. The experience with choreography and flexibility serves him well here, particularly in the ninja scenes. The standout sequence, which has been understandably well featured in the trailer, is a Mount-style dialogue free fight between Snake Eyes, Jinx and a horde of red ninjas. Inspired by Larry Hama's famous Silence issue of the 1980s G.I. Joe Marvel comics, with all participants swimming over a vast chest, slicing Tysons and flipping along, it's a completely over-the-top and thrilling sequence that feels appropriately bigger than life. The performances are mostly solid, with everyone, Johnson including, seeming to be having a good time playing a big budget version of a kids action figure showdown. That also goes for Bruce Willis, who has a supporting role as the man who inspired the team named General Joe Colton. No, he is not giving the kind of great performance we have seen from him recently in films such as Looper and Moonrise Kingdom, but he also currently is not bringing the obviously dash attitude Willis can exude when he is not enjoying himself on a project like Cop Out. The big negative on the action side here is RZA. I'm sure there was a kind of Tarantino influence. This is so crazy it might work. Attitude when casting the rape star turned actor was on the Joy comic book ninja period called The Blind Master. but it just doesn't work. The scenes with RZA take the movie from charming goofy to just impressingly campy. I'm guessing we're seeing a truncated version of this material as well. As it's notable that much of his dialogue is used as voiceover, with only a few shots of RZA actually speaking his lines. My league might vary on this, as some in the audience I saw G.I. Joe Retaliation, which seems to enjoy RZA on a campy level, but for me it was just a big misfire, and I was just glad he only had a couple of scenes. On the other end of the spectrum, acclaimed stage and film actor Jonathan Bates is a hell of a lot of fun as Zertan. Yes, anniversary technically plays Zertan too, but in a plot thread held over from the first film, the Master of Disguise spends most of Retaliation looking like the US President, and Parts is very funny as a president who can say and do what he wants without a care in the world. Also very enjoyable in a smaller role in The Shield, and justified Walton Goggin as a warden with some very notable presence in his skincare. One thing G.I. Joe Retaliation was going for it throughout is a healthy sense of humor, thanks to writer Roy Tracy and Paul Rinkin from Zombieland. G.I. Joe is, I'm sure many will be curious about the depiction of Cobra Commander with Joseph Gordon-Levitt replaced by Luke Bass's body and Robert Baker Wise. In short, he is Cobra Commander just as he should be. He looks like him, he acts like him, and the voice is stably evil villain. With a nod to Chris Latta's voice work on the 1980 animated series, but not as high-pitched. G.I. Joe Retaliation is firmly a movie aimed at little kids and grows up who wants to journey back into their childhood. It's like an elaborate, expensive cosplay with big explosion and set piece and enough for a winking sense of humor to let you know everyone is there to have a good time. All of which is to say that if you are in the mood of seeing stuff blow up real good, this is for you. Lastly, I feel like I have to mention the 3D, especially given G.I. Joe Retaliation was given a last minute delay in order to convert the film, likely with an eye towards international distribution, where 3D is a much bigger deal than in the US. I hate that the film was delayed for the reason, especially given I am quite over 3D and always choose the 2D option when actually buying a ticket. By the process screening I attended was in 3D, and I will say the conversion is quite well done. There are some entertaining uses of the process was various shots are fired, things blew up and ninjas go flying towards you. So while I don't think you need to see it in 3D, it's look good if you do. A real comic book adaptation, G.I. Joe is a real action actor film by Tim Flynn. G.I. Joe Retaliation reviews. Even with better characters, a more talented cast of action stars, and a more grounded and faithful approach to the mythos, G.I. Joe Retaliation is still an overall disappointed film. You know why? G.I. Joe Retaliation picks up some month after the events of the first film, Rise of Cobra, with Duke now leading the elite back-kicking Joy Force alongside his best buddy Roadblock and talented squad mates like Lady J and Parkour Master Flint. Meanwhile, Cobra's Master of Disguise Zertan is still masquerading as the President of the United States, a position of power he explores in order to ambush and eliminate the Joy Squad. With the help of Cobra Enforcer's family, Zertan frees Cobra Commander, and together they launch a scheme of worldly conquest. The remaining Joy members need all the help they can get, so they reunite with Snake Eyes, his protege Jinx, and seek out the man who first put the Joy in G.I. Joe. Even with better characters, a more talented cast of action stars, and a more grounded and faithful approach to the mythos, G.I. Joe Retaliation is still an overall disappointing film. The cast alone makes it a better viewing experience than the first installment, but a paper-thin narrative and lackluster action sequence ultimately mark it as a half-cooked sequel and a setting strike on the franchise scorecard. Director Jon M. Never Say Never clearly has love for the G.I. Joe franchise and in many ways nails down the aesthetic of the cartoon series. In terms of costume and vehicle design, characterization and tone, this film feels more like G.I. Joe translated into live action than Rise of Cobra Fox, frustrating tech, bionic suits and weaponry. Our Joy team also looks like a kick-ass military unit filled with elite soldiers. This time around, rather than a We Are the World, assortment and fresh-faced actors who looked somewhat out of place getting dirty in a gunfight. While the interception of the source material is more accurate. Chu's skills as a blockbuster directors are unfortunately not on the level needed to realize the interpretation properly on screen. Retaliation stays some pretty ambitious set piece sequence, but on the whole, Chu's skill with action sequence stops at a distracting shots of actors holding big guns shooting in every with direction at unseen foes all clearly contrived choreography. Attributes are snake eyes that doesn't impress in a post-trade redemption world for a movie whose biggest set in section G.I. Joe Retaliation is found wanting. With the exception of a scant few moments like the after-mentioned Ninja Mountain battle, the 3D upgrade is not worth it. It's a scam. It's a shame since Chu is one director who has experience with the format, set up 3D and never say never. He can clearly do fun things with it, the mountain battle. But even with the quality post-conversion process with the film does have the reality that the film was originally designed for 2D prevented it from doing anything all the revolutionary in 3 dimension. On a script level, Rise of Cobra looks positively Shakespearean compared to the story of Retaliation, which is to say the sequel to hopefully short and depth characterization and basic narrative development. Even for a G.I. Joe movie, this is especially surprising considering what a unique signature writing to Pete Rice and Paul Ridgick presented in their script for Zombieland. Then again, there are small traces for evidence throughout G.I. Joe 2 that point to the script once having been a fully realized narrative rather than the bare bones hedge jobs leftover we got as a story. The question of studios and friends looms large as one watches the Frextus narrative, a revolving series of scenes split between the surviving Joe team, the Cobra buddies, and like an extraneous third mom, a snake's eyes, storm, shadow, ninja drama. None of these aforementioned plot threads get any meaningful attention or development. Rather than the movie constantly jumps between each thread, ignoring obvious logistical questions, how did we get here, what led us here, and avoiding virtually all of the character subplots that are hinted at early on. Meanwhile, the script is rife with heavy-handed expositional dialogue and voice-overs used to establish context and are push the various characters toward their climatic convergence. Red herring and foreshadows leads nowhere. The climax is undermined and reflected, and there's ultimately little left at the end to inspire desire for further adventures. Back in 2009, I was somewhat excited to see what the studios has decided to do with the G.I. Joe brand, as they had just come off a luxury sequel to the film that proved making toys into movies could be successful. I am of course referring to Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, which was a masterpiece in my eyes compared to what G.I. Joe's The Rise of Cobra turned out to be in my original reviews for the G.I. Joe film that I started that as the subtitle franchise, one that I hope doesn't exactly happen unless they completely start over. Well, after being delayed almost a year for what was said to 3D post conversion, which they did do, but also seems to be code for Channing Tatum blew up last year, so let's take some time and add in a few more Tatum scenes. If you are a Tatum fan and you are seeing this film simply to see him on the big screen, don't show up late, that's all I'm saying. On the other hand, if they were going to continue this franchise, they did at least go the route I hoped that might with no mention of General Hawk or Ripcord. The sequel seems to be able to continue the story of the first with Tatum's Duke leading a new team of joyous that still makes me laugh and expertly wiping the slate clean so as to introduce us to a few new characters and get the ball rolling in a whole new light, so as this might actually turn into a profitable series of the film the producers can keep on pumping out. The fact of the matter is that despite G.I. Joe Retaliation being a better movie than its producers, it would have been hard not to be. It is still fairly cheesy and goofy and something only tween-age boys will likely have a lot of fun with. If you are a day over 13, you will likely see the goony face of it all, but still try to enjoy the fun it only practically provides. Going into the film, I could hardly remember what happened in the first one, to be honest. I had only seen it the one time in theater when I was first released and cared so little for it that I never revisited it despite knowing this one was coming up. Truly, I was hoping to give the film a fresh eye, and with the fun eye in conventional opening sequence, I thought they might be onto something good here. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is roadblock and second in command to Tatum's do with a team that includes Flunt, or the guy that is intended to look like Tatum DJ, and the eye candy with an attitude Lady J. After then all Kermit turns on them and intend to wipe them out, it is up to these three to get back into the country and figure out why the president had seemingly gone mad. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, there are dealings going on between Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, what we are never really made to understand. But assume Snake Eye is recruit Storm Shadow's cousin Jinx from the training temple or whatever you might call it, run by a blind master that apparently has a significant place in the history between those three. How this all figures into the main plot of the story has something to do with releasing the Cobra Commander and Destro, who have been imprisoned by Zeton, impersonate the president as he has a diabolical plan to take over the world. All of this sound a little reckless with the names making it much more so. That's why I could not help but think as the film went on and gave into me two complicated plot points that make it more convoluted than necessary. Still, it is able to build toward a rather sense conclusion that makes for a satisfactory, if not forgettable film. The main issue I have with the film is not that the content is cheesy, but instead that the makers of the film are unable to convey it in a way, or more specifically in a tone that neither recognize that kind of film. This is a try a little harder to make the audience buy into the credibility of it all. I know that thought probably seconds completely ridiculous, as any movie with someone named Storm Shadow or RZA playing a blind kung fu master in it probably is not the most serious or credible material, but then again you would likely think that about a film with Thorn hidden as well, and they were able to make it work just fine. Instead, what new director Jon M has done after taking over for Stephen Simmons in lower the obvious of CGI and make the landscapes and fight scenes a little more gritty than as a slicky made over as they were in the streets of Paris in the last one. Chu shows off his visual styles best when presented with a monumental task such as staging a fight on the side of a mountain. You have seen bits of it if you have seen any teaser for the films, but coming in right at about the middle of the bridge towers and 50 minutes running time, this sequence is both the best part of the film and the closest to what kind of film I imagine a G.I. Joe movie should be. Compared to this sequence, the rest of the fight scenes in the film feel somewhat bland and don't build as well, but instead are rushed and messily edited with a lot of quick cuts and angry or hard-faced shots. The other end of this argument is that at least the deep thoughts kind of scenes coming, G.I. Joe Retaliation kindly stops to take a breath at any point, and when it does, it only to let loose some kind of ridiculous dialogue such as they are a rod with a zip code The politics of the plot are some mundane and the fight scenes are repetitive. The audience feels once out after the fight hours, which is why it's a good thing that the film has such a likable leading man with the infusion of Bruce Willis to boot. I never thought of The Rock as much of an actor, but since he has decided to let go of trying to be something he's not and moved on from laying on kiddie films to bring in a box office, when he came back to the action genre with Faster after following up a self-referential spot in The Other Guys and followed it up by joining the Fast Five ensemble as well, hoping on the journey to the center of the art franchise, and now this one, it was clear the man had a plan for world domination. He was in the underrated stage last month that showed he had some range in a restricted, more dramatic role and will be in Michael Bay Black comedy Pain and Gain next month before following it up in May and the sixth Fast and Furious film. Despite the fact this film will probably be the most of the four he'll appear in ever fourth month, he still has enough charisma to allow the audience a good time watching him kick ass and defend the great GS of A. His supporting cast could have used a little work though, while the writers try to give Adriana Palik a backstory and a purpose. She is literally used an eye candy in every other scene so that Roadblock may infiltrate whatever he needs to infiltrate. As for Flint, he is given absolutely nothing to do but look around and look good. He was likely brought on for this looks, but we never finds out if he can actually act due to the fact I cannot remember a single thing the guy did in this movie except for the Vigo hint at a characteristic early on where they possibly considered making him the rebellious type. Ray Park displays fine fighting skills as he returns to the role of Snake Eyes, but you cannot judge him on anything else, while both Hunley and Jung are barely given any lines but are instead inserted into the script when convenient for the fight to call for shots. Good thing Bruce Willis shows up for a handful of scenes here to take some of the weight off. Mr. Johnson thought, I wish they would have saved these cameo appearances as a great surprise instead of spoiling it in the trailers. That alone would have made me enjoy the movie much more, but I cannot say I was really disappointed by it as I can hardly remember much of it a day later. The plot of the movie is that after Cobra Commander takes control of the United States government, the G.I. Joe finds that they have enemies in high places. This brings down a deadly ambush upon our heroes, leaving the Joy under fire. In order to fight back, they must band together to fight a battle that places the entire earth in jeopardy. What do you do when you have an epic sales action movie that didn't necessarily thrill audience like it was supposed to? Well, for starters, you could add Dan Jason to the cast like Universal did for Fast 5. He helped reinvigorate the retired franchise thanks to his solid on-screen presence. Of course, he is exactly that Paramount did for their franchise hopeful. Hasbro-based featured G.I. Joe Retaliation. This sleek and stylish and still a little dumb summer blockbuster is an improvement over the first for several reasons. The first being a stronger cast. Many of the original actors are gone, beside Channing Tatum, Ray Park, Arnold Vosloo, Jonathan Pierce and Bung Hun-lee, all of whom stuck around, and the chemistry between the actors is infinitely better this time around. Johnson and Tatum make for a match made in action flick heaven, especially since the chemistry between Tatum and Sean Miller in the first film was non-existent. The story here is not terribly surprising, pretty standard for a movie such as this. Some bad guy wants to destroy the world and blow everything up to gain supreme power. It is always fun to see this kind of glitch mocked in other films like Despicable Me or recently on an episode of American Dad. Of course, any self-respecting G.I. Joe fan is well aware of Cobra Commander as well as Zerton. Then you have Storm Shadows and the fantastic Ray Tavern tearing things apart as firmly definitely giving our heroes a run for their money. Loyalties are tested and one character questions his own beliefs, and London, England is royally screwed thanks to a purposely deadly weapon. The good news is that this feels very much like what you would hope for a G.I. Joe live action features. Director Jon M really brings this sequel to life with wall-to-wall action that is most definitely bigger and better than first. Starting with an early sequence where several members of Joy are ambushed in a surprisingly brutal attack, the violence is shift and doesn't feel as clunky as it occasionally did the first time around. Most impressive is one thrilling set piece involving Storm Shadow and Snake Eye, which take place on the side of snow-covered mountain. And lest I forget, Ray Stephenson kicking all short of ass in one hell for an exciting prison break. Aside from Stephenson, it is great to see Mr. Bruce Willis again in a flick which is more fun than this other recent franchise entry. There is a real sense of camaraderie with the cast that also include the lovely and Renee Pelkey, the always terrific Walter Kochi, and of course Jonathan Pryce as the president. Most of the film revolves around Johnson, however, and he was absolutely the perfect choice for G.I. Joe. He is a natural at playing a hero and clearly is built for it as well. He also has the ability to work well with others thanks to a believable bond he shares with Tatum as well as the rest of the cast. It is a noticeable improvement. Before writing this, I revisited Rise of the Cobra, which admittedly is a guilty employer for me. The problem with the first film, including zero chemistry between the film's lead, questionable dialogue, and not so special effects, are obvious, yet it worked for me, and on a almost camp level, call it nostalgia, but watching the original film was the cinematic version of reverting back to childhood. With Retaliation, Joe improves on many of the problems that occurred in Cobra, making for a much better movie-going experience. The script here by Ray Traces and Paul Ring adds a little more fun into the mix, and while it may not win any awards, it is definitely more akin to the source material. Your inner child may have fun with this flick, but unlike the first, Retaliation is exciting enough to let your grown-up self in on the enjoyment and not feel as guilty about it. G.I. Joe Retaliation is also visually a better film, even with the post-conversion 3D, which mostly adds to the film. Clearly, they spent some time on the process, and the end result is all the better for it. It does suffer from far too much CG, but it's freaking G.I. Joe, so what else would you expect from a Hasbro-based feature film? Retaliation has the popcorn film of Rise of the Cobra and even a few of the faults, including a predictable plot as well as some silly dialogue. Shakespearean, this is not. What is, however, is exactly what the first movie should have been: an exciting and explosive action flick. It features a film cast including the dynamic duo of Tatum and Johnson as well as a kick-ass Stevenson. And most importantly, it features a nice balance of badassery and humor without taking itself too seriously or sacrificing the thrill of it all. This is what fans of G.I. Joe fans were hoping for. It's getting to the point that she should have just Dan Jensen shot at all the big summer blockbuster in need of repair. You cannot go into the movie thinking it will be anything other than stupid fun. If it's done right, the film based in toys can be so dumb it's entertaining. And that's exactly what it is. Most of the heroes from the first film are gone, with only Channing Tatum returning. Thaw is a supporting role. The Rock, Adrian Blake, and DJ Corona are the new leading Jaws. The film packs more humor than before, which is smart because the film probably would not have worked without knowing how silly it is. The characters are still one-dimensional, but it's nice to see some backstory given to some of the major players. The star of the film, however, is the action. The action sequences are thrilling and top-notch. The Eastern-inspired fights are definitely more entertaining than the Western. Martial art is just more entertaining than gunfire, guys. The mountaintop fight between Snake Eyes and the Red Ninjas is the highlight. It's a 9-minute dialogue-less sequence that never starts moving you. The antagonists, Cobra and their plan are convoluted throughout the film, but in the third act they became clear and it's actually kind of clever. Also, Bruce Willis makes a nice cameo as a plane with us as always. This is not a great film, but it is fun. Now let's talk about the full cast and crew of the movie G.I. Joe Retaliation. The movie is directed by Jon M. Writing credit goes to Petrus Paul Venkret. Cast: Dan Jensen as Roadblock, Jonathan Pires as President, Lee Byung-hun as Storm Shadow, Elodie Chung as Jinx, Ray Stempson as Firefly, DJ Catrona as Flint, Adriana Plicky as Jay, Channing Tatum as Duke, Ray Park as Snake Eyes, Luke Bracey as Cobra Commander, Walton Goggins as Walton, Arnold Vosloo as Zertan, Joseph Maslow as Moose, Nick Erickson as President Picture Double, R. Sete as Blind Master, Naeem El-Thrimi as Pakistani President, Ravi Nato as Chief Advisor, Matt Geralt as Havoc, Douglas M. Griffin as Doctor, Joe Christ as Chief of Staff, Bruce Willis as General Joe Colton, James Carville as James Carville, Ryan Hansen as Grunt, Ray Davis as Stoop, Nathan Takshingi as Young Storm Shadow, Lee as Intent, Alana Justin as Intent, Ilya Vlok as Russian leader, Dekrant Toloni as UK leader, Robert Ratini as Israeli leader, Marcelo Tobert as French leader, James Liu as Chinese leader, Ajay Mehta as Indian leader, August Chu as Northern Korean leader, Raja Dekka as Indian expert, Daphne Lansdale as British expert, Terry Dale Parks as greeter, Joo Hoon Lee as North Korean captain, Afimio Omlami as chairman, Dante Ha as Kim Jong's nephew, Carrie Wong as Janki, Benjamin as system officers, Adam Vermeer as weapons officer, Jim Palmer as clutch, Amin Joseph as Cobra Secret Service, Ray Hernandez as Cobra Secret Service, Grant Goodman as First Son, Mikal Vega as Archangel Joe, Berline Plumprar as Roadblock Stouter, Amaya Plumprar as Roadblock Stouter, Destan Costin as Cobra Trooper, Michael Hoves as Cobra Trooper, Alison Hossens as UK Staff, Rain Fabra as Indian Football Settler, Gus Rhodes as Reporter. Now let's talk about the producer of the movie. Gary Barber as executive producer, Roger Birbaum as executive producer, Lorenzo D as producer, David Ellison as executive producer, Herbert W. Gaines as executive producer, Dana Goldberg as executive producer, Eric Hossam as executive producer, Linda Pangini as associate producer, Paul Schock as executive producer, Stephen Sommers as executive producer. Music by Henry Jackman. Cinematography by Stephen F. Windon. Editing by Roger Parton and Jim May. Casting by Rona Chris. Production design by Andrew Maxine. Art direction by Luke Freeborn, Alan Hook, Scott Pulici, Tom Retta, Sebastian Schroeder. Set direction by Ron Croxon, Kathia Lee Jonesy. Costume design by Luge Binchbatch. Makeup department. Martine Estelle as special makeup artist. Gloria Blins as additional makeup artist. Andrea Bowman as hairstylist. Diana Dagels as hairstylist. Adam Gatta as assistant hairstylist. Marcos Cancelia as hairstylist.
Lee Green as graphic designer, specialty in tattoos. Thomas Hubbard as special makeup artist. Tim Jarvis as special makeup outfit technician. Natasha Lyric as wig maker. Jack Loris as makeup artist. Rita Plero as key hairstylist. Rami Seva as makeup artist. Production management. Kirby Adams as executive in charge of production finance. Vincent Agostino as junior production manager, second unit. Stewart Pathoni as production manager, mountain unit. Sarah Flame as production supervisor. Darren Hicks as production supervisor. Oi Uwashi as production manager from Japan. Jason Poments as production manager, IMAX version. Richard Sterling as post-production supervisor. Ralph Bradley as executive in charge of production. Second unit director or assistant director. Dave Casper as first assistant director, additional photography. Stephanie Ton Cosina as assistant director. Alan M. Hillers as second assistant director. James Larka as first assistant director. Camel Dome as additional second assistant director. Philip Neely as second assistant director. Gibson Paz as second assistant director. Art department. Alexandra Odyssey as Scalpet. John B. Cleverly III as General Foreman. Although 2009 G.I. Joe The Rise of Cobra was a relatively successful action blockbuster, most of the film's main cast has no interest in reprising their role for future installments. That means saying goodbye to Christopher Eccleston, Sienna Miller, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Rachel Nicholas, and by killing character Tom Duke along with most of the other Joys within the opening few scenes. 2013's G.I. Joe Retaliation act almost like a soft reboot by pushing a new hero front and center in Jason Statham's Roadblock. Retaliation's story is relatively straightforward, with Roadblock and the few remaining members of his team attempting to stop Cobra's latest plot to gain world domination through a puppet US president. But for fans of the classic heroes from Hasbro's toy line, the Paramount movie managed to deliver a solid set of fleshed out character arc alongside the hyperactive fight scenes. Here are some of the characters and up by the time Retaliation rolls credit and what the future of the G.I. Joe franchise looks like in both TV and film. Snake's Eyes and Storm Shadow's conflict goes back to their childhood, where we briefly saw in The Rise of the Cobra Hard murder in the sole reason that Snake Eyes took a vow of silence because Hard Master had the closest thing he had to a father. He took Hard Master death to heart because he was the only person who helped him make something of his life after Snake Eyes found himself homeless in Japan. The entirely Snake Eyes Storm Shadow's rivalry is based around the falsehood that Storm Shadow murdered Hard Master over this fondness for Snake Eyes. Storm Shadow's stubborn and aggressive nature means he never tried to defend himself from these accusations, either adding further to the idea that he is a cold-blooded murderer. As he explains it, he is lost in his anger. It's possible to feel so much late you stop feeling it at all, like a fish not knowing it's in water. He says, on the opposite side, Snake Eyes is so determined to settle his vendetta that he pushes himself to the limit whenever facing that nemesis. So, when the revelation comes that it was the Cobra villain Zertan that killed Hard Master, the strife between the two strike warriors is instantly diffused. The truth being covered allows the two to find peace, and the pair team up in a final fight against Cobra is the first step towards repairing their fractured friendship. Roadblock's entire arc is about getting justice for his fallen comrades following the devastating missile strike in the film's beginning. But it seems like his mission has only just begun with the sequel bait of Retaliation's ending. Roadblock's need for revenge is one of the main themes driving the film, though he quickly realizes that he cannot make things right without his team. He has to lean on them to ensure their mission goes smoothly, gangway with the belief that he doesn't need allies. But throwing out the rulebook means calling on a uprising figure. Bruce Willis' General Joe Colton, the original G.I. Joe. The general conclusion is a way of pushing the team forward is uncovering Sultan as the fake president, as well as giving long-time fans the classic Hasbro character in live action, of course. Unfortunately, Roadblock Thirst for Revenge is not quenched just because the Joys serve the day again. Cobra Commander is still out there after escaping Fort Summit in the heat of battle. It makes sense why the filmmaker didn't let Jon Johnson, hero, get to face off with the villain in the final of Retaliation. Clearly, they were saving it for a dramatic climax in the originally planned third film. The fight would have likely ended with Roadblock shooting the villain using General Patton's gun, which Colton gives him at the end of Retaliation in appreciation for its efforts. It's a moment that lends into the overly patriotic nature of the franchise, but also serves as a reminder of Roadblock that he is not alone in his fight and that he has the rest of his team serving along with him. The G.I. Joe franchise has not had the best luck in the 8 years since Retaliation's debut. Dan Jensen has always maintained that he'd like to return for a third film, which was his one-part title, G.I. Joe Ever Vigilant, and there was even a plan to cross G.I. Joe over with Paramount Transformer series. Neither Ever Vigilant or the crossover materialized. But the franchise has taken a surprising new director from a reboot from German director Peter Sequinti, which will slowly focus on Snake Eyes' original story. The prequel will see Crazy Rich Assassin star Henry Rosen as the brutal ninja and will resolve around his conflict with Andrew Koji Storm Shadow in Japan. Hopefully, with the raids as Hardmaster, Snake Eyes will have some extremely satisfying stunt work in the film as the emotional backstory which was only touched on in G.I. Joe Retaliation. There's not too long to wait for the film either, as it arrives in October 2021. There's even more military madness on the way through a live-action G.I. Joe TV series centered on Lady Joy, who was played by Adrian Plicky in Retaliation. But with all the recast roles in the Snake Eyes films, it makes sense that the upcoming show will also pick a new actresses to bring Lady Joy to life on the small screen. Because creator Eric Olson has a deal with Amazon Studios, it would not be surprising if the show arrives on Prime Video. That could open the door to a harder and more violent story than the one featured in the crowd-pleasing blockbuster movies. G.I. Joe Retaliation came out in theaters on Friday, and although I have known for a while that it would not exactly be the sequel I wanted, it would be more of a reboot with 80% new cast, I enjoyed it thoroughly and have to say I cannot wait for the next one. These days it's not a question of there's going to be a sequel. It's how many sequels are there going to be. Okay, let's take a step back and talk about why we all saw a trailer of the G.I. Joe sequel just about a year ago, but had to wait an entire year to watch it. G.I. Joe Retaliation was supposed to come out last year, more specifically June 29, 2012, but the studio delayed it until March 29, 2013, and at the time they got two reasons for the delay. They wanted to avoid the Avengers box office flowover, smart move seeing as it became the third highest grossing movie to date, and they wanted to convert some scenes into 3D because 3D movie ticket cost more to see, meaning the movie could be more profitable in foreign theaters. And if you have seen the movie, there were some fantastic scenes that were in 3D, so I guess those 2 points are 100% valid. But they are only 2 of the 3 reasons that the movie was delayed just under a year. The third reason being that just about 6 weeks before the June 29, 2012 release date, the studio got scores from their test screenings ranging from mediocre to bad, and the only thing the test audience liked about the film was the buddy-buddy relationship between Channing Tatum and Dan Johnson. But there was one problem. Tatum characters got killed off in the first couple minutes. Now it's a bit unusual but not uncommon for movies to have the main character killed off so a new character can be the hero. But the problem here was two different situations that worked out well together. The studio thought Tatum was not a big enough star to carry the franchise on for a couple more sequels, and Tatum wanted to make other movies to better his career. So originally Tatum's part was about 10 minutes of the 110 minutes, but now it's about 30 minutes. Another side note, the reshoots that only took a little over a week cost just about 5 million. This makes you think if it was worth it for those couple extra scenes with Tatum. But according to the latest box office count, the G.I. Joe sequel is on top with just over $140 million on its opening weekend alone, since the movie budget was a little less than 130 millions. This trouble for G.I. Joe Retaliation has a similar parallel to the rumors in 2009 that started G.I. Joe The Rise of Cobra. Director Stephen Sommers was fired from post-production by Paramount after test screening for the film results in the lowest scores in the studio history. Those rumors were shot down, but we are not completely irritated given the film's low farm reception. However, things took a lot worse of G.I. Joe Retaliation from Screen Rant. The studio decided that they wanted to write a script where Dan Johnson could be the star and almost reboot the franchise with him at the lead, because while they were in pre-production and just about 3 to 4 of the way done filming, the studio still believed that having Thomas as the lead would have bombed at the box office. Wrong. Just about the time they finished up filming and started promoting the movie, Tatum's career took off. Starring in 21 Jump Street in March of 2012 was a smart move, and if you are naive like me and saw the original G.I. Joe 2 trailer and saw Jason's leading the Joys with Bruce Willis and thought Tatum was just captured or something, then we would have probably had the same reaction the test screening audience did. If Tatum's character has to die, we want to see more of him and The Rock being butts before he goes. So naturally, after the studio did the screen test and got the feedback, they brought Tatum back for a couple more scenes. The studio decided to delay the movie 9 months to film about a week or so of reshoots and then convert the film into 3D. So understand which one is the real reason for such a delay and which one is the harmless white lie. If you have seen the movie, you can understand that Tatum's character had to die for the Joys to take revenge on Cobra. I mean the scene where the 3 remaining Jaws break into Bruce Willis' house and Dan Johnson puts all the dog tags, close to 30 of them, on the table. The only person they mention they need to avenge by name is Duke, and follow it with "and our other brothers." Basically, Duke's death was necessary to motivate roadblocks to avenge him. And I guess the way the movie was originally, the audience didn't feel the connection between them, so it didn't feel like Roadblock was avenging his best friend's death. It felt like Roadblock was just taking over as team leader, and not much else. Okay, on December 12th, 2011, Mochima released the first trailer for the movie, and if you have seen the movie and the trailer, you can probably guess, like I tried to, which scenes were filmed after the movie got delayed because of what scenes were in the trailer and which scenes feel like they were added in afterwards. My guess would be the opening scene in North Korea where Duke, Roadblock and Flint get through the gate and rescue a man who was not being guarded but was hiding in a truck under a blanket, while Mouse and Jay provide cover fire with sniper rifles, and then Flint changes the Korean flag with the Joe's flag. The reason I think these scenes were filmed after the movie got late in because it has no real relevance to the main storyline. Besides one point, it shows that the Joes work together well, but another reason it was probably filmed later. You don't have all the Joes, which makes me think they could not just get all the extra red shirts Joes back, so they just got the main five. Plus the scene where all the Joes go get the rocket proves they were all well together. And it has a relevance to the rest of the movie, the scene where Duke and Roadblock are playing a video game in Roadblock's house. There's two reasons I think it was filmed later. The first being that it was a very small scene. It took up about 5 to 6 minutes but probably only took them less than an hour to film. And the second reason is again relevance to actual story. It's kind of something has none. The scene only gets mentioned once throughout the movie, and the scene it gets mentioned it in another scene. I think they are filmed after they decided to delay the movie's release. When asked about this scene, Dan Jensen said, "All the dialogue between Canning and I was built in that scene. It's like the Call of Duty, just completely built, and I was not quite too sure how I was going to play anyway and how good I was going to be at it, and him too. Clearly he sucked at it and I was trying not to suck so dead but yet trying to give him shit at the same time. I was a lot of fun. That chemistry between Channing and I, not only did it jump off on screen, but when he did, and that he did it to be nice and genuine and authentic and real, he wound up like out of his whole thing. We are like brothers now. You can imagine what it was like on set, and again we needed that to go where we were going in the movie. I had to feel real and the bond had to feel real. The scene where Duke and Roadblock are betting who can shoot a candle out on top of the cupcake at the other side of the shooting range. This is probably another last minute add on screen because, like the previous scenes mentioned, it adds just about nothing to the actual story besides concerning their boundaries. And it took up a good couple minutes, but it probably did not take the long to film. That would be the guess of which scenes were filmed after the movie release date delay, and although they seem out of place, somehow it made the movie more likable, I think. But let's get on to what worked and what didn't with the G.I. Joe sequel. The things that worked well in G.I. Joe Retaliation: bringing back the sibling rivalry of Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow because ninja brotherly fighting is awesome. Bringing Dwayne Johnson and Bruce Willis into the series, no explanation needed. It has done before where Dwayne Johnson The Rock has been brought into a popular series that needs some revival, and it has worked so far. Forgetting about Destro. I could barely understand a word he said in G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra, which didn't make his threat that scary. So I am glad Cobra decided he was out of the band as he said in Retaliation. But there's the thing I don't get in Rise of Cobra: saves Destro I think 3 times so they could team up later on, but then they get caught. And in G.I. Joe 2, Cobra lets Destro die, so why save him and inject him with the pneumatize to change his face into the Destro mask? The thing that doesn't make sense is that Destro is a skimpy little guy and not even good at fighting and cannot even get a guard to be on his team without brainwashing. Just sad. The cliffside battle with Snake Eyes and Jinx with flying ninjas. It's just about the coolest scene in the movie. Bringing Ray Stevens as Firefly. Ray Stevens is one of those actors and I enjoyed seeing as a bad guy and good guy, whereas when Dwayne Johnson actually always play a good guy, and there's a reason. He played a bad guy in Get Smart and he was not very convincing. But Stephen pulls it off and has a couple really good scenes in including 2 where he's fighting Roadblock, the better ones near the end, but this coolest scene is where he breaks into the prison where Storm Shadow, Cobra Commander and Destro are being held, and blows up the gate with his motorcycle. Yeah, I know sounds weird, but watch the trailer and you will understand. Things that didn't work. The posters. This is the most common poster and you have probably already seen. And this is the secondary poster not as common but still relevant. Now, my problem with these posters is Roadblock, Snake Eyes, and Jay that all switch spots with someone, but they use the same abstract image, whereas they used a different image for Bruce Willis. Oh wait, they just used some of the character posters to balance out the amorphous Jon Johnson image that even when they make him smaller by making his entire body be shown instead of just his head is still bigger than everyone else. So for the first poster they used Snake Eyes and two characters poster. For the second they used Snake Eyes, Joe's and Cobra character posters, just recycling their image every posters. Again, repeating image of Joe, Jinx and Cobra just used in a different spot on the posters. The second thing is not bringing back 80% of the cast and expecting us to forget they existed. It's almost as if the studio looked at G.I. Joe, the Rise of Cobra and decided, let's make a sequel by just bringing back the two ninjas and the president, but with the main good guy and bad guy, let's kill one of them so fast and recast the other entirely.